what's up? It's your host, Torry, and who is ready to be petty? I'm here with a very special guest today, Troy from the DUNZO and Beyond the Blinds podcast. Troy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've been literally eating up all of the content that you've been putting out.
Oh, cool. Thank you. That's cool.
Especially in the last couple months, because obviously, like, I follow pop culture, celebs, etc. But I actually had never, like, I knew what blinds were, but I had never, like, really looked at them or anything.
Yeah.
So I feel like you and your co-host Kelly have introduced me into, like, a whole new world.
Yeah, a lot of people say that they'd never heard of them before, didn't know that they existed, or they had, like you said, heard of them but never really, navigated them. And now, yeah, I do feel like it's definitely opened up like a whole world for a lot of people, which is cool because I've loved blind items since I was a teenager. So
I just feel like I don't want to do the like legwork of like figuring out who is who.
I'm a lazy blind item person. So I only read them when they're revealed. Like,
Yes.
I'm not good at the riddle rattle. I'm not good at the, like, I'm really terrible at guessing them. You would think after reading them for like 20 years, like I would, but I'm not. I'm not good at like figuring out who the A list / B minus list person is. Like, I'd never figure it out. So I only read them when they're revealed. Like, I just don't have the mental capacity, to be honest.
That's so funny. And I guess for those listening, if you've never heard of a blind item, it is basically a gossip story about celebrities, but they don't reveal who it is about. They just describe the person. So like Troy said, it could be an A-list singer or like an A-list movie actor in the Marvel universe or something like that, where it's like strong hints towards like probably one specific person or like a few people, and then people try to guess who the blind item is about.
Yeah, and I do think that they're hard to. I think that they're hard to read if you haven't, like, because the way that you navigate like regular news is different than how you read blind items. It does take like a skill, I guess. Like, you kind of have to learn to work that muscle because it can be really confusing and like super overwhelming if you've never like dabbled.
Yeah, and you just need such a knowledge of what has gone on in the last like 30 years in
Yeah,
Hollywood. So
you do.
yeah.
You do. Yeah.
Do you think that I've been thinking, because like I feel like blinds are really becoming like more mainstream. Do you think that that has a lot to do with accounts like Dumois?
Yeah, because something that Kelly and I joke around about a lot is that blind items are like, up to this point, they've been sort of stuck in a very specific kind of time period online.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go to most blind item websites, it's very like old WordPress, Angel
Yes.
Fiery. Like, you literally have to be 30 to even know how to navigate the website. Because if you're like 20, you're like, why does this look so weird? Because it's literally an Angel Fire fucking website.
Yes.
So they have not been brought into like modern pop culture really, like,
Mm-hmm.
as far as the look and the feel and like how you read them and stuff. Like, it really hasn't been updated. So Dumois, bringing blind items into like the social media stratosphere, I do think has really changed it a lot. And I don't even think a lot of people reading them know that they're blind items.
Yeah.
I think that they
Yeah.
just think it's like a cool Instagram account that tells secrets. I don't think they know that it's a blind item. You know what I mean?
Yeah, completely. Do you ever get curious about like who NT Lawyer is, who Dumois is, like the person behind the screen, or are you just there for the gossip?
I used to be really curious about NT. Like, when I was younger, I was like, who is this mystical lawyer? And then, what changed my opinion was like he started a podcast. Yeah, he has a Patreon podcast. So like,
Oh,
I'm so
yes,
used to
yes.
hearing his voice now. I'm just like, he's just like any other podcaster to me, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's a voice now. Before, I was like, I didn't even know I didn't even know if he was like really a guy. I thought maybe
Yeah.
it could be like a completely fake, identity. But now that I know what he sounds like, it's like he's just some guy. Like, I don't know. I do still get curious, but I don't really care as much now.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like I could just never have one of these accounts because I would spoil it between
Right.
like,
Oh my God.
like immediately.
Yeah. I'd be like, sorry. I wanted to come forward and say sorry.
Like literally I would just like accidentally out myself like
Yeah.
immediately.
Like accidentally post your personal account.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Okay, so I'm really excited about the topics we're going to talk about today because these are things that I have not yet talked about on the pod, but have been kind of like stewing over the last week. So I just can't wait to like unleash all my thoughts. But we're going to talk about Kravis. They recently got engaged. We're going to do a little bit of a Jamie-Lynn Spears, just like a petty update that I just want to share with people because it's funny. Some news about John Mulaney and Olivia Munn. And then we're going to talk about the Winter House season 1 premiere. So let's dive into it. Kourtney and Travis got engaged last week in Montecito on the beach. Roses galore. What did you think about their engagement?
I thought it was cool to see Kourtney like in, you know, having like a moment. You know, she's like having her media moment right now. I've always been a Kourtney head.
Me too.
So, you know, it makes me happy to see Kourtney like being like the person that they're talking, like the world is talking about in the family. And for something positive, you know, it's not because Scott like is doing something terrible or whatever. Like, it's cool. I do think it's a little cringy at times.
Yeah. Yes.
And it does make me kind of sad to see Kourtney feel like she has to get so lost and swept up in like his whole gig. Because I like Kourtney's personality and I like the way she dresses, and I think it's cool that she's always been so sort of like sure of who she is in that family and like how different she is than her sisters. So to see her like becoming a hot topic girl is like a little like, oh, that's sad. But it's also like she's in love, you know?
Totally. But it's like not just like a subtle nod to your boyfriend. Like she's full on like changed her look. I know that like I saw a TikTok recently and it was like she hasn't like fully changed her look. Like she was wearing like corsets a few years ago and like these leather lace up pants a few years ago. I'm like, but she's like really like it is a look overhaul. Like
no, for sure. It's giving like, it reminds me of like in middle school when like a popular girl like borrows like a hoodie from like a skater.
Yeah.
And like the sleeves are really floppy and they're like really theatrical about it all day. Like it's giving very that like gym class love.
Just like a popular girl, who starts dating a skater guy and then like just adds one piece of his clothing to her outfit.
She's like, I'm wearing borrow your black hoodie. And like,
yes,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, like I'm gonna paint my nails black today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And like I am very happy for Kourtney too because I'm like, this seems like they were friends for so long, they were neighbors for years. Like I'm like, this is real. Then I'm like, oh, they've only dated for like 9 months and are like already engaged. But I guess they're both also like older. Travis has been married I think twice before this, so it's also just like maybe when you're older you just and have more relationship experience, you just kind of know.
That's the thing that I like about their relationship. Like that's the pro for me, is that they've both really been through it. And at this point, it's like they've both had like treacherous public marriages too.
100, like the worst relationships publicly like detailed on TV, like
on reality TV. Like they both sort of had their relationships exploited while also exploiting them. Like they've had a very similar journey. And then he like almost died. And I just feel like they're both in like a similar space in life, you know? And they're just like, they know, like they don't have to go through any of the BS because they just like know what they want. And I think that's cool.
Yeah, they both have kids. And I was thinking like the one thing that I'm like, this is real is like when Travis flew on an airplane and he hadn't done that in like 15 years or whatever. I was like, this is like real. Like,
yeah. It's really interesting to think like what it will look like. And obviously they were filming or whatever. So like, we know that we'll see it on TV in some capacity.
Yes. Okay, that's what I wanted to ask you about. I do not take credit for this conspiracy theory at all. I'm sure I saw it somewhere online, but I have gone down the rabbit hole of like they really got engaged in July in Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
and Chris planned this staged engagement for the TV show, and they released all of these like pictures and stuff because she's trying to cover up. Did you see that flight press about
Mm-hmm.
like recently where it was Travis dropped his phone underneath like the seat in front of them on a flight, and Kourtney freaked out and made the flight attendants like disassemble the seats, and it took like 2 hours or something like that. And I was like, this came out on like Friday, and then all these engagement pictures came out on Sunday. Like I put on my tinfoil hat and I was like, this is fake.
I think with the Kardashians, it's completely perfectly okay to constantly be wearing a tinfoil hat. Like you can't put anything past them, especially something this major. Like,
Yeah.
you know, whenever they bring a guy into the family, like they know that they're like folding them into the brand. It has to be presented a certain way to the public. Like, you know, I just don't put anything past the Kardashians, honestly. And this is like, for Kourtney, this is very high profile.
Yeah.
Like they can't just kind of willy-nilly it, you know? So I think tinfoil hats all around.
Yeah, because I do find it interesting that this was so public when she is kept, like, I know that she posts a lot of pictures with Travis, but there's actually not a lot of like information or her talking about Travis. And I just always think back to the early days of Keeping Up where she displayed so much of her relationship with Scott, and it went so sour that I feel like she doesn't want to give any information to us about her relationship. So I feel like she's kind of in this like, she gives the pictures so she doesn't have to give like the interviews or whatever. And I just felt like this public of a proposal isn't something that this couple would do. So I just really feel like they got engaged in Vegas. They went to Disneyland to celebrate. She was wearing those like bridal Minnie Mouse ears, and they staged this for the TV show.
I think that that's like really spot on. That's exactly how I feel about it. I honestly.
Oh my God, I love that.
I really do. And I also, honestly, I feel like people have all these judgments about Kourtney being like boring, and you know, Kim has told her that she's like uninteresting or whatever.
Yes.
And it's like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Like, what this woman has shown on this show, well, like Kim could never be as vulnerable on TV as Kourtney has been over the last, like, you know, 15 years or whatever. Like what we've seen of her relationship and the way she's been treated by Scott, and just the way she allowed it to play out and slow burn play out on TV for years. Kim wouldn't even let Kanye speak on the show for a while. Like, I mean, I just think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. And all like her pregnancy stuff with her kids, like she shared so much. And then obviously she kept like Eunice, her previous boyfriend, and Travis kind of like away from the spotlight. So it's just interesting. Yeah, to me, we'll see, I guess, what happens. I guess she's not doing interviews or anything, but it would be interesting to see if this was like for their new Hulu show, and that maybe she, feels comfortable enough to share more about her relationship.
Yeah, I am interested to see how she sort of, how this is all presented. I mean, I'm interested in seeing what the Hulu show is like. Like, one of the things that bothered me about Keeping Up is that I didn't understand after so many years, and after like as famous as the Kardashians became from that show, like the need to do those like B plot scripted moments. Like, I just never understood it. Like, you guys know that we're going to watch the show because we want to see you. I don't want to see Kris Jenner become a mime.
I know.
So, like,
I know.
What the fuck? I had never understood that.
Same. I like stopped watching because of those. I'm like, I don't want to. You're right. Kris Jenner becoming a mime, them doing like a obstacle course or like stuff like that. Like, it's just, and it also just got so old because we would see news break or we'd see stuff posted on social media. And I'm like, I don't want to revisit this story that Kylie went to a bar underage in Quebec.
Right.
Like, when it happened 8 months ago. Like, we're past that.
Yeah, we're a little too wise to the formula now where it's like things happen in real life and then you address it on the show and get ahead of it and you control the narrative and then everything's fine and then we move on. It's like, and then also, by the way, Kim's trying wigs for the first time and we're going to watch her go to a wig store with Jonathan. It's like, no, it's insulting.
Yes, absolutely. I really hope I can't take credit for this, but my dream show for Hulu is like a Shark Tank TV show with them as like the sharks.
That is amazing.
Like, just because it's something different. And I still think that if we get something that like reality TV wise, it will just end up being very similar to Keeping Up. But I really think that they are so talked down about with like no talent, but it's like they're extremely bright businesswomen and like I would just love to see more of that. I probably saw that theory on TikTok or something like that, but I would just love that.
I do definitely think if that were to come true, it would be like the cream, like, you know, it's like the cream would float or whatever. What's that saying? The cream would rise to the top or whatever.
Yes.
You would see like Kylie kind of stuttering through the fact that like, you know what I mean? You'd see Kendall like being like, blink, blink.
Yes.
You know, versus Kim, who like actually is fully in control of this giant multi-million-dollar brand. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And Chris like just working all of the PR shit and that would be so fascinating to me. But and I just want to see, you're right, because I hate the celebrity brands where it's just like they like pick out the color from like 6 choices and that's their like contributions. Yeah, especially Kim and Chris. It would just be so fascinating to see them give like business advice.
It'd be really cool.
Do the Kardashians have blind items about them or are they just... Oh, okay.
Oh, yes. They have so many blind items about them as a family and then blind items about them sort of individually. They're really interesting.
So are they much different from like other news press that we typically see from them?
I would say so. I would say that as far as like regular news, the Kardashians have really been able to like step in front of the narrative and like really control their image in a way that's like, who would have ever thought, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's almost at this point kind of taboo to see press be like really negative about Kim versus a few years ago when it was like you would only see negative press. So I definitely think the rebranding of, you know, Kim becoming this like survivor after her Paris attack, businesswoman, mom, mogul, it worked. Like she really has rebranded herself and helped rebrand the whole family. And yeah, when you read blind items about them, they're just much less precious about them now. Like, because I definitely feel like the way that, not all of them, but definitely Kim, I would say, is like very, the public handles her with like child gloves now.
Because she's so powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
That's fair. Well, she can like, I'm thinking about some of the people she used to work with, like Joyce and like the makeup artist or hairstylist. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. Hair.
I think it was hair. And like, she is just nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I will tell you the most interesting like kind of time period to read about Kardashian blinds are like the old school, like the Reggie Bush days, like when Kim was like really, 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 really desperate to be famous.
Yes.
Like there's just a lot of just interesting stuff out there about her and like things that she was doing behind the scenes to kind of like try and become a celebrity.
That is really interesting. Yeah, I should look back at some of those because that is like an interesting time. Would it be like this best friend of a celebutante or something? Like,
I don't remember I don't know what the Kardashians' nickname was in blind items. I gotta like look it up, but I can send them to you. I can send you some.
Okay.
I'll help shepherd you through.
Thank you. I need that as I enter this crazy world of blinds.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to Jamie-Lynn Spears. I just feel like I just want to add to her like bad press. To
Right.
be
Yeah. Can't get enough.
Yes. She recently wrote a book. It's coming out soon. It's called Things I Should Have Said. And she wanted a portion of the book sales to go to a nonprofit organization. She chose This Is My Brave, which is an online space where people can share their struggles with mental health. And she released like an announcement that this was going to happen. And the organization was flooded by so many Britney fans that they decided that they won't be accepting the donation. And they put out a public statement of their own. What are your thoughts on this? I felt like this was just like such a repercussion of the last couple months that I just never would have like seen coming.
I will say I was shocked initially by the sort of pompousness of this family, especially Jamie-Lynn, like the nerve and the gall to like publicly plant your feet when you've been exposed in taking part in a hostage situation and like abusing a national icon for 13 years. Like you helped take part in that and you're planting your feet. That to me is like shocking. Like I really honestly thought right after the first documentary came out, I was like, oh, Jamie-Lynn's going to be the first to say something to like apologize or whatever. Like she does not give a shit at all. Like she just does not care. And she's so self-righteous about it. She just makes it so easy for people to attack her because it's like, you have no remorse. And the less remorse you have, the more people want your head on a stick.
Yeah.
So, and then like the nerve to release a book in the midst of all this and not be like, you know what, I'm going to take a little step back. Like she's looking at this as all press is good press. That's really how she's viewing this.
Yeah.
And it's like to not be self-reflective enough to just like take a step back and like literally hide. Hello. Yeah. You might want to hide. You might not want to go on a press tour because everybody in the world hates you right now. It's insane to me.
Yeah, it is. And I feel like that type of like blinding self-righteousness really makes you do these things that she's doing or like keeps you thinking that it's okay to do what you're doing. And it's so gross. But yeah, I guess that's a good point. Just like her just even coming out with a book is just capitalizing on like the saddest situation ever. Like this is your sister. Mm-hmm. And then to make it like a PR move about, you know, taking care of your mental health and having a charitable aspect to the book. Like I just can see the PR team in the boardroom just like thinking like, oh, this is the way we can do it and get like through scot-free because we'll just donate a portion of the book sales and you know, if we talk about mental health, no one can get mad at that. And it's like, oh, just wait. Just wait. Yeah.
It's like, wow, you really, really have no grasp on like what's really going on. Like it just shows a lack of awareness for the situation, for public perception, for how bad this situation is with her sister. Like there's no grasp on reality. Like they really have been living in like their
alternate
own
universe.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's wild. Yeah. You know, and obviously it really just shows like how similar she is to her dad.
Yes. I was gonna ask, do you know, like I know obviously Britney's estranged from the family, but does Jamie-Lynn keep in contact with Jamie and Lynn?
Yeah, I believe that Jamie-Lynn, Brian, and the parents are like in communication. Yeah, you know, pretty like semi-regularly, especially because like they're kind of spinning these plates. Yeah, you know, like trying to keep all the burners going, and it's like it honestly boggles my mind. It just blows my mind.
What do you think like went wrong for Jamie-Lynn Spears? Like, was it we don't have to get super, super dark about like the
Okay.
paternity of her
Well,
child, etc. But like, where did this like fame hungry, like kind of girl come from that would put like your sister's life on the line just to like be famous and rich and stuff like that?
well, I've always said that I think Britney's fame is Jamie Lynn's like trauma.
Interesting.
Like I think that Britney and her celebrity and being a cultural icon is traumatic for Jamie Lynn. And I
Right.
think it's been traumatic for her since she was a little girl.
Right.
And I think having lived in it and grown up in it, like she's not like Brian, where Brian was like older. He was like a,
Yes.
and basically an adult when Britney became famous. Jamie Lynn was a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
So like for her, it's like she's only ever known her life through being Britney Spears' little sister. And I don't think that Britney's fame is anything that I think that she would like, if she could keep the money and do away with Britney, with anybody knowing who Britney Spears is, I think she would. Like, I think she would take that from the world because I really do think that it's like this big trauma for her. On top of the fact that when it was like her turn to become famous, her parents had basically left her
Yeah.
on her own, and then when it was her turn to become famous, she was just like kind of given to Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just think she's had a really, to be honest, if I, not to like take up for her, but I do think she's
No,
had a really
no.
tough go. Like, I do think
Yeah.
there's a lot of trauma there, and it's all, Jamie and Lynn are to blame. Like,
Yes, 100%.
for how fucked up that family is. I don't think, Jamie Lynn is a product of her terrible upbringing.
Yeah. Do you think if she didn't get pregnant and Zoe 101 hadn't stopped and, she moved through the Disney Channel / Nickelodeon like teen pipeline and then transitioned into like, a young adult actress and singer and stuff like that, do you think things would be any different for that family?
It is wild to think what would have happened. I mean, I definitely think getting pregnant, like, sort of derailed
Her
everything.
career, yeah.
Yeah, like, I definitely think that she had a lot of, like, her own aspirations and, like, hopes and dreams and stuff that never became fully realized. And, I mean, to be, like, to put yourself in her mindset and be the sidekick to the superstar, you're already never going to be as famous as your sister.
Yeah.
And then you kind of do get like pretty famous, like your show's successful, people, there's like products and things, and you're on this train, and then that gets derailed because you get pregnant. Like, it's very sort of Shakespearean, to be honest, like in a sad way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think that her life would have been way different. I think she would have honestly had a really long career. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Because obviously I loved Zoe 101
Mm-hmm.
and it had the same, I think, appeal as like Lizzie McGuire and stuff, had some great merch and a good song and all of those fun things. And then like I liked some of the country songs that she released as like an older, like a young adult and stuff. And I just would see her career going a different way. And then I'm like, I wonder if like, yeah, her dad wouldn't have such a need to control someone if they were both successful. And yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, I get what you mean. And I almost feel like she would have gone like I know that she wasn't like technically a Disney person, but she would
Yeah.
have gone like a similar route to like Miley, where
Yeah.
I'm sure she would have put out an album as a teenager. Like I'm positive of it, that they probably were already like clamoring to get her in the studio to record some like, young country pop punk album or whatever, So yeah, it's like wild to imagine what would have been.
I know. Ugh, I could talk about this for hours.
I know.
But we should chat about Olivia Munn and John Mulaney. This is like another really interesting story to me because obviously John Mulaney went through a very public divorce and went to rehab and then made a very public announcement that him and his girlfriend Olivia were having a baby. He did like a interview on the Seth Meyers late night show. Obviously, that's a very like not scripted, but like intentional move.
Right.
And then this weekend, it came out that on DeuxMoi that they had broken up and that he was possibly cheating on her with someone else. What do you think about this whole situation?
Well, for one thing, I love comics. Like I love stand-up and like comedians and stuff. And I'm always fascinated by like the darkness of comics.
Yes.
Just, like how dark their lives always actually are and how depressed they are and like the addiction issues. And it's like all of the comedy is fueled by just like such sadness. And it's interesting because you look at him and you would never think that he had such a messy life. Like he looks like just like a cute, nerdy guy. See, it's crazy. I've always really liked him though. I am not an Olivia Munn fan at all. I think she is treacherous and truly rotted. And she's a real like blind item. I always use the term blind item celebrity. She's a real like blind item queen for sure.
Yeah, I liked him too. And yeah, I don't actually know much about Olivia Munn outside of her relationship to Aaron Rodgers back in the day. But yeah, I feel like he has like a good heart. And like I was nervous. I never want to say like I don't want to step on anyone's toes who like just is starting their recovery journey and stuff like that. But I was nervous obviously when you are fresh out of a divorce and rehab and then you're with someone new and expecting a child. Like kind of it's a lot. But do you think that there's any like weight to these blind items? Like do you think that there's been a rumor that their publicist maybe planted some of this information and then they'll like do a statement later in time? Do you think that there's anything or do you think it's just gossip?
I mean, I don't think it's like totally out of the realm of possibility that this like crazy tornado whirlwind relationship like abruptly ended. You know what I mean? Like the way that she got him is so insanely messy. And obviously he was like not in a great place just generally. Like who knows? I don't know. It's so hard to say, especially given the fact that there's like the element of addiction involved, you know, like it's hard to say, but I don't think it's out of the realm of it being real for sure.
When you say they got together in a messy way, that's because he was cheating on his wife with her.
Yeah. And she had like very publicly said like, I want him.
Yes. Yeah.
And
she
then,
was like a fan.
Yeah. She's like, I want him. And I think he's married, but I want him. And then she like got him. It just feels very like old school Angelina-y.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean?
Such a good reference. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Interesting. We'll see where this goes. Like, obviously, I wish the best for at least John and Anna.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. like you said, I think he seems like a good guy.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for him. I like John Mulaney.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I think also we don't give, or maybe we do give him props, but I feel like people don't understand how big of a deal it is to talk about like addiction issues or mental health issues on such a large platform. I think sometimes we like take that for granted because quite a few people do it, but it's like sometimes I'm like nervous to post on my Twitter that I'm like feeling depressed and like I have 100 followers. Like
yes, 1,000. I get nervous about saying it on my podcast. You know, like I'll talk about it sometimes where I'm like, I struggle pretty intensely with depression. But anyways,
me too. Me too. I'm like, I haven't got out of bed for 6 weeks. Like,
yeah, let's not get too personal or whatever. Yeah. And then especially like for somebody like him, it's like as a comic, he's expected to come out and do some sort of bit about it and have it be turned into like, you know, like this comedic thing. So like that's also really weird too. But yeah, the whole situation is just so, I would say for anybody listening who doesn't know a lot about Olivia Munn or like just blind items in general, she's a great celebrity to start with because there's so many blind items about her, and it's like easy to read them.
For those listening who don't super know this world, Olivia Munn is a popular blind item girl, but are there any other like big names that you would say are also like
big blind item people?
Yeah.
Who else is a really big blind item person? I mean, I just did an episode about him like 2 days ago. Armie Hammer was like huge, yeah. Even before Dumois, like he was a huge blind item celebrity, talked about all the time. Angelina is a really big blind item person. So is Brad, and so is Jennifer. Yeah, I mean, like the A-listers are big blind item people. Like Tom Cruise is a massive blind item celebrity. So is Katie Holmes. They had a real blind item-y kind of marriage. Will and Jada are major blind item couple. David and Victoria Beckham, huge blind item couple. Yeah, the bigger names are like real blind item-y people. Because nobody wants to read a blind item about like some YouTube star. You want to read it about somebody, you know what I mean? That's like major.
Yeah, the more private, the more famous it's way juicier.
Right.
And I feel like those are the people that don't talk a lot about their personal life, where it's like, yeah, like Tana Mojo or something, like just watch her YouTube and she'll probably share what is happening. Yeah. Anyways. So
yeah, totally. And like people like Tom and like Will Smith have worked so hard at like crafting like a persona.
Yes.
You know, and like a lot of people believe the persona to be true.
Yes.
You know, so it makes their blind items that much heavier, because you're like, God, like 35 years of this like idea of this person is like not who they are. You know?
Yeah, and that's why I feel like sometimes it's hard to obviously convince people that they're true, because they're like so set in their image of the person. And that obviously is just super interesting to me. But do you think that they're also getting more validity because, like, when you mentioned Armie Hammer, I was like, yeah, these blinds were written about him for years, these like alluding to these crimes and this like heinous behavior, and then it comes out that they're true. Do you think that people are going to go back into the archives and like dig up more dirt on these people?
That's what I hope. I mean, I hope that people like, because the thing about blind items and news like this, like it does require a little bit of like work. Like you kind of have to, if you want to know these things, you kind of have to look it up. Like it's not going to come up on your phone as like a TMZ alert. You kind of have to look it up. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, I think, don't really want to do like the legwork of looking that stuff up, which I completely understand. But I will say the best way to verify if a blind item is real is history. Like, you know, if you read a blind item about like Will and Jada having like kind of a unique marriage, if you read just one of them, you're like, well, who knows if that's true? But if you go back and you've been reading them since 1998 or whatever, and they've all consistently been very similar stories written by tons of different people, then it helps you kind of realize what's real and what's not real. You know, because I always say nobody's going to spend the time writing the same story about somebody for 30 years for the fun of it.
Yeah, that's so true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel like these people are like shouting from the rooftops and no one is listening sometimes. And then like the Armie Hammer stuff breaks and they're probably just like, yeah, we told you.
Yeah. And everybody's like, did you hear it? It's like, well, girl, yeah.
Yes, I have. Yes. And it's funny because like I consider myself a pop culture expert. Like all my friends, if they want to know something, they will message me, or people are just like, what's up in Hollywood nowadays? And like all of that stuff. And some of this shit I had no clue. And it's so interesting of like what you don't know until you look it up.
Yeah, we're totally, I mean, we don't realize how much we're in like, you know, like the grips of like the media and just like the narrative, and like the Kardashians are a good example of just like, we're just along for their ride, and it's okay every once in a while to get off the ride and like take a look at it. You know what I mean? Like get out of the freaking hamster wheel. You know what I mean? Like, my God, like they're totally in control of their whole thing now because people can't see outside of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And they just have such a grip on everything at this point that Yeah, it's so interesting how they can like craft their whole lives, and it makes you think about other things like the government and stuff.
I know, I know. It's a slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope. Yes, yes, it is. Okay, we're gonna finish off with a little bit of recap of season 1 of Winter House. I was so excited about this. I actually don't watch Southern Charm, and I like
Okay.
dip my toes into Bravo a little bit. It's something, again, a kind of a blind spot for me, but I was just so excited for this TV show, and like it really did not disappoint. What did you
Yeah.
think of the episode?
I thought it was great. Southern Charm and
Summer House.
so I was like, wait a minute, is the same? Yeah, Southern Charm and Summer House are like two of my favorite Bravo shows. I love them. So I was down for this. I was a little nervous because I was like, oh, is this like completely jumping the shark? Is this like, because it's like a totally, the concept is, and you know, like Bravo is infamous for like having to have some sort of reason this is happening. Like
Yes.
Kyle knows so and so, and Kyle came up with the idea of getting a man. It's like, fuck off, you know what I mean?
I know.
But like I thought it was so fun. It was so fun.
It was really good. And I always love like beach settings for TV shows. I loved the like winter getaway
Yeah.
vibe. I wish that like, cause it was filmed like last winter. So I wish that it aired last winter, cause I'm like, this is like old news now.
Right.
But it's been really fun to like just follow along on like Reddit. So I don't know Austin and Craig, but my first impressions of them were they were really poorly dressed. They just like the like New York gang just like I feel like has such nice clothes, and then I feel like Austin and Craig just looked so like schlubby.
So Austin is very broy. Austin is very like Eddie Bauer.
Okay.
Like he's very, you know, plaid button up and shorts for the whole summer and like boat shoes. And then Craig is like broy, but also so Craig is interesting because they obviously like their whole friend group is like very sort of traditional in a lot of ways. And then Craig is like if it was 2002, we would call him metrosexual.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Remember when that was a thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
And like it's weird. It's still like weirdly it's a way to describe like a specific kind of person in a weird way.
Yeah.
And like Craig is like very super straight, but like he gets made fun of by his group because he likes to paint his nails occasionally, or like, you know, he likes to sew and he's like kind of emotional. But yeah, he dresses a little bit more like, I don't know, I guess they're both broy, but I would say definitely Craig has way more taste than Austin is a mess. Like Austin is like this dirty shirt looks like it should work today.
Yes. Okay. I was like, you look like you're from my hometown. Like,
right.
I'm from like a hockey town. There's a ski resort there, so it's very snowboarder like type of thing. And I was like, you like would fit in my hometown. But I guess that makes sense because Craig and Paige are together, or they went Instagram official a few weeks ago, and I was like, she is so into her looks, so into outfits, and I was like, how did they get together? And they like didn't even interact on this episode.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was really funny.
So weird.
Yeah, Craig is like winter Craig was interesting because I'm used to seeing him wear like warm weather clothes, but he is very like, I will say he's like pretty polished. Like he like wears a lot of like suits and ties, and you know, he likes to they're always going to these like pinkies up parties because it's like Charleston. So like he likes to dress up a lot, and it's very like, I would describe his style as like if Tommy Bahama was like younger than 60. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I totally get what you're saying.
Like seersucker suits and things like that.
Yeah. I did watch the Southern Charm like season 1, episode 1, because I was like, I need to get into this. Like the stuff with Catherine, and because you just see it all the time in the news, and I'm like, this seems like the perfect like instance where they started a TV show and then all of their personal shit blew up too. So I'm like, I need to get into this. But I was like watching the first episode and I was like, ugh, I just can't do this, but maybe I should give it another try.
You should. The way that you just described it is actually, honestly, it's perfect. It's like one of those moments where you're like, I can't believe there was a film crew in
Yes.
this group this at this specific time. I
Yes.
cannot believe it. Like it really is like, I would say as a reality TV connoisseur, it's been some of the most jaw-dropping reality TV I've ever seen, for sure.
Okay. You're literally selling me on it, because it reminds me of, did you ever watch the Alexis Nyers, like
That's exactly what I'm picturing in my head.
yes, where it was like, how did this happen? How did you get arrested like a week into filming your TV show?
Right. Yeah, and like this young, Catherine, this like, who at the time when the show started, I think she was like 19 or something, or 20. Just like slept with the entire cast and got pregnant by some old man on the show, and like sort of set the tone for the next 8 years or whatever. But
Yeah.
it is the craziest wild ride. Like you'll love it. You won't be able to stop once you get into it.
Okay. I'm gonna do it. I'm committing to this. And
You'll love it.
there's a running joke on my pod that I say I'm committing to a TV show like every episode and then just never follow through. But like, also everyone knows I love trash TV, so maybe this is one that will stick.
I'm telling you. And then because you're watching Winter House, like you'll appreciate it like in a different way,
Absolutely. Okay, my other like big takeaway from I have to mention that Amanda was wearing a Dumois sweater. So it was like crossing like realities where like this celebrity, New York celebrity, reality TV stars wearing a blind item accounts merch.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was like, what the hell?
Like I like literally paused it and like zoomed in because I was like, this can't be the case. It just can't be. But the second like big takeaway I had was like, Andrea, is that how you say the Italian man? Was he annoying or charming?
He was revolting.
Okay, right?
Like he made my stomach churn.
I hate him so much.
It's like, hey, are you Italian by chance?
Yeah.
Or no? Because I haven't heard you mention it. Oh my
1,000
God.
times.
Like we get it. It's like you're literally a parody of a human being.
Yes. Oh my gosh. When he brought coffee to Amanda and Paige in bed, and then Paige was like, is this a move or just like real, like him? And I was like, it's a move.
It's a move. He's like, he's like doing like the Pepe Le Pew thing where it's like American women think that like European men are like this.
Yes.
So I'm going to do the thing and have them all go crazy about my accent and say like, Amanda for no reason. Like it's just like I'm kind of annoyed. I'm like, if there was anybody in the house that I wish wasn't there, it's him. Everybody else is great.
Yeah, he seems like the like staged person where everyone else it seems natural, and like even if it's fake natural, I like that so much more. And
me too.
Yeah, he just seems like he's like thirsty for internet fame. But I was actually surprised that Amanda seemed like really not into him, obviously, but like she, I don't know, was like mesmerized by him. Like,
I know. I was like, oh, so nobody's gonna like, nobody in the house sees through his bullshit. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I guess if I was like getting out of a car and I saw him walking up to me, like being really overtly charming.
Yes.
I'd probably. Yeah, like I know myself and yeah. But I would very quickly realize what's going on. Like
yes. I would be too. Everyone knows I would be the girl hiding behind the car like fanning my face because it's like
dipping your head in snow.
Yes, because it's like overwhelming and he looks perfect. But and then he like started to talk and I was like, ugh, you're so fucking annoying.
It's like you're annoying and really dumb and like you like know you're attractive. There's nothing worse to me than somebody who's like so sure that they're attractive that it's like, I'm gonna be the hot one that everybody wants. Like that makes me want to like knock you off your pedestal.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It was so interesting because obviously we saw the Austin and Madison stuff play out in the tabloids with Jennifer Lopez. And then when they saw it at a grocery store and Austin called Alex Rodriguez washed up baseball player, I
Right.
was like on the ground laughing. Like, how did Alex Rodriguez get a mention in this Bravo TV show?
Austin's like, oh God, my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Oh God, this is gonna suck. He's so like nasally and gross to me. But yeah, and it's also funny because it's like because his identity on the show is that he's like lost, doesn't know what he wants to do with his career. He has like this beer company that doesn't do like nobody knows what the deal is with it or if it makes money or anything. Like he doesn't work. He's like not motivated. Like the reason that girl broke up with him is because he like doesn't keep jobs. Like, and he's like a washed up baseball player. It's like, well, sir.
Who are you?
Yeah, like, okay.
That's so funny. Okay, well, I have to learn these two new guys, like their backstory. This is good thing to dive into.
Who else was there anybody else that stood out to you in the cast?
I liked the newbies. I usually like hate when they bring newbies in. Like I was like, and I'm not gonna remember any of their names, and I did not write them down. But
not until next year.
Yes. But I did like the cast. Like I thought that the cast just really gelled, and they just like knew what to do, and I think it's going to be a really fun season. And I'm kind of sad that we didn't get to see Lindsay yet. Yeah. She arrives next episode, and like I do miss like Carl and stuff like that, but I thought they did a really good job casting these new people.
Yeah, I agree. I was a little sad to not see Carl. Then I was like, oh yeah, he's like Soapsies now.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't be much fun. But I missed seeing Lindsay. Like I like that it's like sprinkled with just like a little bit of Southern charm, but it's mostly the Summer House kind of like roots, you know?
Yes.
I like that. I like that it's rooted in Summer House, basically.
Yeah, me too. Because it's such a good cast, and I felt like after their like COVID season, I think it was season 6 or just the last one that aired was not one of their best. So just having this like new setting and new places to go and just new people to interact with, I'm just really excited.
Me too. I think it'll be good. And like you said earlier, I think they're very aware of like what kind of show it is and like they have like a real strong grip on what we want to see.
Absolutely. And I keep saying like season 1 because I am praying that there's a season 2.
Oh God, I know. I think that there will. I think there will be. I can't imagine that there won't be. I feel like the ratings are going to be really good for the show.
Yeah, Summer House like does well, but I feel like just Bravo, there's such a hold on like the Housewives like series that sometimes some of their smaller shows like Below Deck, Shaws of Sunset, Summer House, etc. just like don't get the appreciation and the big audience that like it really deserves.
Well, I do think, and I have been saying this for a long time and I stand by it. I know that a lot of people don't agree with me, and there are some people that do, but like I think that Summer House has replaced Vanderpump Rules in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Like, I mean, who gives? I still watch Vanderpump Rules, but I'm like, what is this show? Like, what am I watching? I'm literally watching a bunch of people close to my age like mow their lawns and talk about taking out loans. This is not what I signed up for. Like, I don't care. I literally do not care about Tom Sandoval's equity loan or whatever. I'm like, ugh. Oh my God. Like, this is why I don't play Monopoly. You know what I mean? I want to escape. I don't want to like talk about rent.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think that Summer House has totally replaced Vanderpump as far as like the young, like hot debaucherous people hooking up on Bravo. Like, you know.
Totally. And it's funny because they did like the backdoor pilot for Summer House back in the day. So,
I know.
Yeah. But with like the new casting changes and stuff like that, you have to, again, I just think that they found gold with the Summer House cast, and they did in the early days of Vanderpump Rules too. But this is such a strong cast, and yeah, I could just see it carrying like a lot of seasons. So
I hope so. Fingers crossed.
I know. Okay, Troy, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Good. Where can the listeners find you and listen to your podcast?
Yeah, so I have a podcast called DUNZO, and I have that's just like a pop culture kind of thing. And then I have a second podcast called Beyond the Blinds. You can follow DUNZO just at DUNZO Pod on everything. And Beyond the Blinds is the same. I think on Instagram it's just Beyond the Blinds Pod. That one's private because Kelly and I are always afraid of being sued. So, but if you add us, we'll add you back.
Yes.
Yeah, or we'll accept you or whatever.
I think that's so funny that it's on private, but I like totally get that. Sometimes I'll say like the most innocuous comment on this podcast, and I'm like, I know no one's listening specifically, but I was like, I'm scared. Like
terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying. So when you're talking shit about Aaron Carter, you need to be protected.
Yes. Yes. Good call. Okay. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much, Troy, for joining me on this episode of RTBP. It's Halloween if you're listening to this on its premiere date. Not that I think you're going to do that, but it is RTBP's 3rd year anniversary. Woo! And I don't think I've ever wooed on the podcast. But next week, I have a special bonus episode of the podcast where I pulled together clips from the past year that the listeners submitted via socials. So that's how I'll be celebrating. The best thing you can do to celebrate RTBP's 3rd year anniversary, our little birthday, is to share the pod with a friend, share that you're listening on socials. Word of mouth is honestly the best way that we can get more members in the RTBP community. If you're not already following me, you can do so at RTBP Podcast on all socials. I hope you are safe and healthy out there. As always, I'm your host, Torry, and I'm ready to be petty. See you soon. Bye.